You want to kick it off?
No.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Sons of a Pitch, an American Soccer podcast. This week, Nick and Mike will discuss some of the biggest headlines around the MLS, including the fire sale, expansion updates with new Nashville SC signings and Inter Miami news. And after the break, we get into the league headlines. Is Zlatan the greatest MLS player ever? What's going on with the playoff picture, as well as other stories from around the league. Thanks for listening. Looking forward to having you. Hey everyone, this is Nick Pateris from the Sons of a Pitch, an American Soccer podcast. We are back once again with a lot of soccer to talk about. I'm here with my good friend and fellow host, Michael Yalmy, and we are thrilled to be able to talk with you on this wonderful podcasting platform about all things American soccer. If you'd like to join the conversation with us, you can find us on Twitter at SOP Soccer, on Facebook at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, and on YouTube. Just search for the Sons of a Pitch podcast. You can also subscribe on Stitcher, iTunes, and Google, and pretty much anywhere else you can find podcasts. And we would love to hear from you. Leave us an iTunes review. Leave us a review on Google Play, wherever you find your podcasting material. Actually, we got 2 great reviews already on iTunes saying that we are the best soccer podcast in the universe. Maybe a little bit of puffery there,
Maybe
but we're gonna take it. And we've got actually a number of 5-star reviews already. So hopefully you can jump in, give us your reviews, give us your follows. We will be happy to read them on the air, give you a mention, answer your questions, discuss whatever it is you want to hear. So let us know. To that end, we want to thank Brad Weigel, Pints, Pies, and Goalmouth Scrambles at Pints_Pies, a nice football talk, soccer talk podcast there. Also at USMNT_advantage, at USMNT advantage. Thank you guys. At USMNT takes. So a lot of U.S. action going on in the podcast. No surprise with the recent international friendlies. And a big thank you to at 24th Minute, Dwayne Rollins, a big-time Canadian soccer analyst and just man in the know about CONCACAF and Canadian soccer. Thank you, Dwayne, for following us. We're really happy to have you be a part of our little podcast network here, our little soccer connection. So thank you for that.
Love the handle, 24th Minute. I bet there is not many of our listeners out there that would understand that handle like the TFC fans do. 24th Minute, not Dwayne De Rosario, Danny Dichio's first ever goal for TFC happened in the 24th minute, so I love it. Nice handle.
Excellent. A nice little Canadian TFC trivia there. Thank you, Mike. Also, again, find us on YouTube. Leave your comments there. You can see us recording. Hey, I'm waving to the camera. You can see the various soccer-oriented t-shirts, or in Mike's case, the various Toronto and Canadian gear that he's sporting tonight.
Hey, you got a United States flag on the shirt, though.
That's true. It's the odd night. You're not wearing an old Javinko jersey or something.
Hey, that's all I've got. All I have are TFC jerseys. So, listeners, if y'all want to send us a jersey in like an XL or double XL because I'm fat, for some, Columbus Crew, New York City, New York Red Bulls, whatever your team is, you got any old jerseys laying around that you don't want anymore, or you got some real cheap ones there, send them my way. We'll wear them for the YouTube broadcast.
We could throw a nice scarf right here behind us on the border, or or you can also check out my I Heart USA Soccer T-shirt, sponsored by Captain Morgan on the back. I think it was like World Cup 2010, maybe.
Were you old enough?
And I was at 2010, Mike. Yes, I was well old enough. It was just coming off my completion of my 3rd year in law school. We were studying for the bar and watching the World Cup. So
there you go.
we were out at a bar and Captain Morgan was throwing T-shirts around. I even got a Captain Morgan soccer ball signed by, I'm trying to remember who was there because I can't make out his signature anymore. It was a former USMNT, but I feel like it was. No, it wasn't Todd Ramos. Crap, I can't think of who it is. I'm gonna look this up and I'll let you know. But yeah, they were throwing soccer balls and T-shirts all around the bar in Chicago.
Wow.
We were watching the Greece game. I was the only Greek guy in the bar. There was probably about 200 South Korean fans because that was the group they were in.
Okay.
South Korea, Nigeria, Greece, and I forget the other team. Yeah, I was like one of 2 or 3 Greeks surrounded by about 200 South Korean fans and my Colombian buddy too,
Hey,
who
there
met
you
us
go.
out there. So it's quite the mix. Great memory though. Got my T-shirt, and it was just something I'll probably carry with me forever.
Wow.
Being the sole Greek supporter in a ridiculous bar.
Great moment, Nick.
Absolutely. So that's enough talk about tales past. Let's get into some tales present here and what's going around the MLS. Probably the biggest news, especially for us guys in the Chicago area, is what has happened with the Chicago Fire recently. You've seen the jokes, you've seen the puns, you've seen the memes. Fire sale! It's a fire sale! The Chicago Fire were sold. We got a new majority owner.
Hallelujah!
This is what we've been looking for.
Chicago Fire fans have been waiting for this moment for a long time, and it is very evident by their tweets and all the news going on. Thank God this guy is out of there. Houtman is out. There's been a hashtag Houtman out for I don't know how long.
Well, for as long as he's been in, I'm sure.
Yeah, pretty much. And this is the day they've been waiting for, and it finally happened. Great news for Chicago Fire fans, supporters alike. Huge day. Don't really know all of the details from the sale, but have heard that most of it is that now that the partial owner who had a minority ownership now takes over the full majority from Houtman, and Mansueto is his name. New ownership, and then they announced the move to Soldier Field, that becoming official as well, even though there's been speculation about that for a long time. Everybody knew it was going to happen. Yep. Nobody knew about Houtman getting bought out, so that was really surprising news and good news, but overall, a huge day for Chicago Fire Soccer. Maybe a lifeline for this club that's just been struggling for the past 10 years.
Well, we linked to a lot of those articles. There's about 6 or 7 articles that we linked to on our website, www.sonsofapitchsoccer.com. So go over there, check it out, and you can find the Tribune article, the Sun-Times article, MLS's announcement, ABC, NBC Sports. We've linked to all those articles through our website, so go see the details, the nitty-gritty details there. But just to kind of give you a little bit of background on the new majority owner, Joe Mansueto. He is the executive chairman of Morningstar, which is a leading investment research firm based here in Chicago. I don't know if he's from Chicago, but at least he has spent a lot of his time here and made all his money here.
Yeah, there you go.
He did step down as the CEO back in 2016 and now is taking charge of the Chicago Fire. He also owns Ink and Fast Company magazines, and this is probably some of the cooler stuff. This is how you know you've made it. When you have more money than you know what to do with. Because he sits on the board of the Art Institute of Chicago and Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Those types of positions, it's you've done a lot of good for the community. You think you're a good businessman, but you're rich, you're wealthy, you're just filthy rich. Come join our board. So, from a business side of things, this looks like a great move. I shouldn't say it's a great move for the Fire because they didn't make it, but Fire fans in the organization should be really happy that Mansueto is now taking this over.
Right.
Kind of the thought I had, though, when I was reading all about it, because it was all feel good, happy hand-holding, I want to thank Houtman for the opportunity and bringing me in as a partner all those years ago, and, he really took care of Chicago and did a lot for soccer in the city. It was all this nice, feel-good vibe, because no one's going to take cheap shots at someone who had the worst ownership management record in MLS at the time he was there. You're not going to take those cheap shots.
Right.
But to me, knowing all of that and seeing just how nice they were talking about Houtman's ownership, I'm thinking Mansueto's this dude's ruining my investment. I'm a 49% owner in a team that he is running into the ground. I need to step in, buy this dude out, and just make it my own and really make it something good. That's really what I think the impetus was. He's this dude is screwing my future. I want to retire and just hang out and watch soccer, and Houtman is pulling the rug out from under me because he won't fire Paunovic and everything else. So we'll see if Paunovic sticks around. We'll see.
Yeah, no, that's a good take on that. I can't see Paunovic staying around. I can't see Nelson Rodriguez staying around. You've got the clean slate now. You've got the new ownership group. This is the time to just wipe it all clean. You've got all those contracts coming off the books at the end of the season. You've got the move going to Soldier Field. I don't know if they're going to rebrand or not. Seems like the fans are against that. Who knows if
I'm
that's
against it.
You know, I actually think it would be a good idea because nobody here in Chicago knows anything about the Chicago Fire. Ask 20 people tomorrow. If you're in the Chicagoland area, ask 20 people if they know there's a professional soccer team here. And I guarantee you 19 out of 20, if not 20 of 20, will say, what?
I honestly, Mike, I don't think I talked to 20 people in Chicago. That'd kind of be scary. Like, if I just went up to 20 random Chicagoans and be like, excuse me, sir, hey, what do you know about the Chicago Fire?
It would be kind of cool if I didn't have a job and I didn't have to go to work tomorrow. It'd be kind of fun to just go down to, like, Michigan Avenue and just be like, you know, throw the camera on the phone and be like, hey, interview time. I'm with a podcast. Do you know about the professional team that plays here in Chicago?
Would you wear a Fire jersey? Would you wear some sort of gear and insignia showing it?
No, because then they can read your shirt and they'll be like, oh, it says Chicago on your shirt, if they pay attention, which most people don't.
That's very true.
But, you know, that would be kind of fun.
Maybe I'll do that in my job. Like, I work for... I shouldn't say anything about it, but like, the company that I work for, I should, like, you know, talk to the clients and be like, hey, by the way, did you look over the monthly numbers, and are you familiar with the Chicago Fire? Like, no, not the TV show. Like, maybe we can work that in a little bit and just see how popular it is.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask 20 people at work tomorrow, you know, if they know about the professional soccer team.
Listeners, if you want to know more about the Fire, let us know. If you don't think that the Fire is enough of a brand, they were the first expansion team. They were there since '98.
I'm not saying they're
They've
enough
got
of
a
a brand.
rep in the soccer community, and they probably, even the casual American soccer fan, knows about the Chicago Fire.
Absolutely.
But the rebrand might get
everybody
bigger audience.
That's fine. If you want to bring those, you know, say 5,000 to 10,000 strong supporters that go to multiple games a year out in Bridgeview, if you want those fans, you know, to stick with it, which they're going to regardless, if they're Chicago Fire or Chicago Football City Club, whatever, right? They're going to stick with it. 90% of them, guaranteed, are going to stick with it. The fact is, you're going to a huge stadium, 60,000.
Well, they're not going to make all the seats available for the game.
You're not going to fill every seat. They're going to cover up the whole upper deck with tarps like they do in Atlanta, you know, 10 or 12 games out of the year.
Yeah, Seattle as well.
They're
playing in a football stadium.
Right. I mean, I get that. I'm not saying, but still, you go from a stadium, what's their average attendance this year? 13, 14,000, if that?
I think on a good day, yeah.
Well, right. But sold tickets-wise, and that's the number that counts when it comes to management and whatnot. So,
right.
If you take that 13 or 14,000 and send them to Soldier Field, it looks like crap. It's empty. There's nobody there. It's like, man, remember the Wiz playing at Arrowhead Stadium?
Oh, that's you
remember the Red Bulls playing at the old Giant Stadium? Okay, that looks bad. So maybe, I don't know. I'm for a rebrand because you're going to still get the main source in there, but you can do this huge marketing campaign. Look, and especially with a brand new owner like that, man. He's not brand new, but you know what I'm saying.
Sure.
He's going to say, hey, this is a huge opportunity. You can't do this again. You throw a huge marketing push, throw billboards all over the city of Chicago. You give away 10,000 free tickets a game. You're selling 25, 30, and giving away 10. You start to bring more people in. That's the whole point of moving this into the stadium in Chicago.
Well, they're gonna need the increased revenue because they have a deal with the Chicago Park District in place. I think to actually begin play in 2020.
Right.
So they're going to be
next year.
That's next year. They're starting right away.
There's one game left at SeatGeek Stadium, and I'm going to it.
So they need the money to pay off the city of Bridgeview to break that lease. They're going to need the money to jump in and offset whatever expenses they're going to have renting the facilities from the Chicago Park District, whatever insurances they're going to need, all these other increases in expenditures because you're moving into the city of Chicago, which, as anyone who has a little bit of a political knowledge to him knows, Chicago is not a business-friendly kind of city from that aspect. So he's going to need increased revenue in the long term to offset these short-term losses. So we'll see what happens with that. The one other thing to kind of... there was something I wanted to say. Oh, yeah. There was one other goofy kind of rumor going around the MLS Twitter, which, as you can imagine, is just a crazy place to be, that there's a league rule that says that you have to have a lease in place in order to play in that season. So people were saying, like, well, if the Fire broke their lease with the city of Bridgeview and haven't signed a lease with the Chicago Parks, then they can't play and they'll forfeit the next season. So two things on that. I'm pretty sure someone called out that the citation for that rule actually came from the USL, which I don't know if the MLS has an equivalent, but whatever the original person cited, it was actually a USL rule. And the second thing was they actually hadn't broken the lease, but they just put everything in place and agree, you know, and it was kind of like, well, like when you're buying a house, right? You're not going to sell your house until you got the new one to move into. You have contingency plans, you have clauses that's like, well, we don't have to move out, but we're still breaking the lease until we get this. So all of that kind of speculation was just that, just rumor and speculation. So the Fire will be here in 2020, playing in Soldier Field, and yeah, like the league was going to let them walk away.
Right. Not going to happen.
So that is kind of the Chicago Fire. That's kind of the big news around the league, at least from our perspective here. Wanted to give a little bit of an expansion update going on, some happenings with Nashville SC and Inter Miami. What's the full name for Inter Miami, Mike?
Inter Miami SC?
Is that,
or it's FC? I'm not 100% sure.
But I thought it was like
I know it's Internacional. Yeah, it is F because they Internacional de Football Club de Miami, I think, is the full breakdown.
And that is the best Spanish accent you are ever going to get out of Mike.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
don't be too harsh on him when you're listening. That really was him, and he admits it really was bad. But couple of updates. Nashville SC with a new signing, a Costa Rican winger, Ronald Leal. Again, my accent not much better. I'm more of the Greek accent. And that was the other thing. Yeah, you're going to the Chicago Fire game. It's Greek night. I'm obligated to say that as a Greek person. Wow. Anytime there's a Greek anything, I have to tell everyone who's listening. So it's just my burden that my culture puts upon me. So yeah,
we'll talk about that later in the episode because we've got I know you're going on a trip to go see a game. I'm going to a game here in the next couple of weeks. So we'll touch on that later.
So yeah, Greek night, Chicago versus TFC. Anyway, Nashville. Back to our expansion updates. Randall Leal, who again coming from Saprissa in Costa Rica. If you have followed CONCACAF Club Soccer, if you followed CONCACAF Champions League, you're familiar with Saprissa, top club in Costa Rica. Has has produced a number of MLS and international talent coming out of Costa Rica. So particularly Randall Leal. He's got a little hype video on Nashville's website, so go check that out. He is, how old is he, Mike? He was born in 97. My math is terrible. Wow, so he's only 22?
Yeah, 22 years old.
So young guy, hopefully sticks with Nashville for a long time if he plays well for them, or hopefully they can flip him for some cash. He's been with Saprissa now for about 2 seasons.
Yep, season and a half, 2 seasons.
Not a full-time starter, but again, he's only 22 and playing for the top club in Costa Rica, playing for a perennial Champions League club, so not surprised he hasn't gotten more starts, and hopefully he can really blossom playing for Nashville SC. The other thing to point out for Nashville as they continue to fill out the roster, a couple of names MLS fans know, Anibal Godoy and David Akam. We talked about
Derek Jones as well.
Derek Jones, yes. We talked about them signing Hani Mukhtar, the German international. He's going to probably be their focal point of their attack. But also let's mention Daniel Rios, who is a striker. He's a Mexican international. He is currently playing for their USL side and has been signed to their MLS squad. So he's played around USL in Mexico a little bit. So the guy has talent. He has international experience. Also, he knows Nashville. So this could be a good signing to help continue their culture from USL to MLS. So excellent signings thus far by Nashville. We'll see if they're going to make a big splash as they actually get into the international transfer window in January. Mike, we got some other news from Inter Miami. You want to talk about what's going on with them?
So do you want the rumors first? Or do you want the actual news that happened?
Don't keep me in suspense, Mike. Hit me with the rumors. Let me salivate about what's happening in Miami.
So, of course, we've talked about it in past episodes. A lot of talk throughout all the MLS channels that, there's going to be every kind of rumor for every big name player you can imagine out there just because of the connection with David Beckham. Well, let that wait no more. Messi is the rumored signing here for Inter Miami. Apparently, David Beckham was floating around Paris and Barcelona and all these places in Europe last week with some family members of some people and Messi's representatives and Barcelona representatives and all this kind of stuff. And so now there are all these newspapers, tabloids, everything is kind of getting in on it, saying, well, maybe there's something in the works here. You got Messi, who has been offered a lifetime contract by Barcelona, but he can leave for free. I believe it's after this season. So come summer of next year, he might be a free transfer, which in the terms of Messi, you would have to think he'd be upwards of 120 million euros as far as a transfer fee would be. So huge.
If PSG is asking like 200 million plus players for Neymar, like I don't know about that. That could kind of set the bar for Messi, even though it's a ridiculous bar.
Well, right, and I mean you got to remember too, Messi's going to be 33 when this contract is up, so it's not like he's he's 26, 27 anymore. He's 33. Not saying he's bad by any means. He's still one of the best footballers in the world, but he's kind of getting up there. So maybe it is the time to come to MLS. Maybe the way I look at it, you never know. Well, Beckham was playing in L.A. There might have been something where when he was in England or when he went on loan to AC Milan, all these places, he met up with some of these guys and was like, "Man, one day I'm gonna have my team like 10 years from now. If I score this game, you're going to come play for me." And then, he scores, and then, "Hey, man, you got to come play for me in 10 years, bro."
Some old backroom bet that Beckham's
exactly.
calling
You never
in
know.
now.
I'm just saying, it could happen. So get your hopes up, Miami. I mean, they've already made a couple good signings as far as young Argentinian players. The squad will be good. They will get some big-name guys, guaranteed, just because of Beckham. But for the real news... They did make a signing from the Vancouver Whitecaps. They picked up a David Norman Jr., a Canadian midfielder from Vancouver Whitecaps FC. He was a 21-year-old homegrown player. And this guy apparently is playing right now for Pacific FC on loan of the CPL. So kind of a young Canadian up-and-comer. Got noticed by the management there at Inter Miami, and they decided to make a deal for him.
Absolutely, you need to build. First of all, you need to build a roster. So you're going to go. I'm not going to say you're going to take anyone, but if they do show a little promise, you want youthful players who you can build some consistency around. Have these guys on like 4 or 5 year deals that you're going to have them. You're going to be able to coach them up. I still think LAFC and Atlanta United are kind of the exception for expansion teams coming into the league and immediately competing for trophies. So maybe Miami might take a little bit of a hybrid approach, and by hybrid I mean Atlanta United big splash, Minnesota United long term, and they're building their depth, but they're keeping their DP spots open. They've got one more DP spot, I think, after signing the 2 Argentinian players. So they're going to build their depth, they're going to build a core, they're going to get some youth players, guys that maybe like Norman Jr., depending on the deal he signed, if it's a TAM deal or just what would you call it, an American roster spot versus an international roster spot. Because I think Canadian players fill a domestic spot, even if they are an American-based club.
Right, and now the new rule, it used to be they would count as an international in the U.S. clubs, and they changed that, kind of grandfathered, so the guys who had already been international spots stayed international, but anybody coming up new becomes a domestic. So.
Okay, so I was halfway there with my understanding of the very vague and complex MLS rules. So it looks like they could have him on the bench for a couple of years and then bring him in as a full-time starter, or maybe use him in domestic cup games and exhibition games or whatever the case may be. So Inter Miami seems to be going about things the right way, and then we'll see come January or maybe come next year if they have all that money to blow on a big splash, huge international, gonna change the way the game is played type of signing. And maybe I'm putting a little too much hyperbole in there.
A little bit too much hype on that.
But if it is, Lionel Messi or
Oh,
Edson
yeah.
Cavani or Luis Suarez or Antoine Griezmann.
I don't
those
think,
are all
I think, I think the first one and the last
Those
one
were the
there are where
rumors.
you're, right. I think Messi, Griezmann, those type of guys are huge game changers. Cavani, not so much.
I mean, for the MLS,
Well,
he'd
for
be a
MLS,
game
yes,
changer.
but I don't think, I honestly don't think so. I don't think Cavani would come in and just tear up the MLS. I really don't.
It depends on his attitude. If
It depends on his attitude. It depends on what he has behind him.
Yeah.
It depends on what kind of squad. I mean, it's
if he has an Ibrahimovic attitude, he could probably come in and be a 20-goal scorer and be a complete difference maker and bring a team to the playoffs. Again, if he has that mentality for it. If he just wants to come and play a little soccer, and if he gets the opportunities to score, he does. That's not going to work. That's not the MLS anymore. This isn't your Pirlo era league. This isn't your who is it, Thierry Henry era league.
Pirlo. Oh my God, I love
yeah.
Andrea Pirlo, but man, that's probably one of the worst DP signings in MLS history.
Yeah, or here's a little Chicago. It's not your Cuauhtemoc Blanco DP league where he can just come in, a little overweight, trot around the midfield circle on defense, not do much, and then when on offense he can just kind of play a long ball or thread a pass through and make it look easy.
Yeah.
So those days are over for these big international DPs.
Oh yeah.
So with that, that kind of wraps up the big headlines. Real quick though, getting away from the MLS, want to go into USL for a minute here. I will be attending my first USL game in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be heading down to Indianapolis. Going to watch the Indy 11 play. I actually don't even remember who their opponent is, but I lived in
Memphis, isn't it?
I think Memphis. That's right.
I think we were looking at it.
Thank you for reminding me of my trip there, Mike.
Yeah, no problem. Man.
But yeah, Indy 11 hosting
Fucking
Memphis.
steel trap up here.
Steel trap. All right.
Problem.
All right. Keep drinking. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm excited. They play at Lucas Oil Stadium, a really cool venue. Love the city of Indianapolis. I'm pumped to go to my first USL game. Pumped to go to my first Indy 11 game. I lived in Indiana for 15 years and never made it down for a game, so I'm excited. And listeners, if you know anything about Indy 11, if you know anything about game day traditions, who to look for, what to expect, shoot us a message at SOP Soccer on Twitter or email us podcast@sonsofapitchsoccer.com. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on the USL and how it's grown, and I'm excited to see the fan base. The other thing that's cool about these games is tickets aren't expensive.
Yeah,
like I'm sitting
real cheap.
midfield, like 10th row, and for my wife and I to go to the game, it's like $60.
Yeah.
We're making a weekend out of it. We're gonna go see what the finest that Indianapolis has to offer, and meet up with some old law school friends of mine who
Nice.
set up shop down there, and just kind of enjoy Indy for the weekend. So I'm
There
looking
you go.
forward to it. Now you're traveling too to a game. Well, not too far.
Yeah, not too far. Traveling to Bridgeview, going to the TFC at Chicago Fire game here on September 29th. So I believe it's another week and a half out, maybe 2 weeks out. But going to the game, so any TFC fans there, if you're traveling, look out. We're going to have an SOP Soccer shirt on and TFC scarf around as well because I got to rep TFC while I'm there. I'll be sitting in the front row of the supporters section up there. I think it's 203 or 206, whatever, right in the corner there of their tiny little sliver of an upper deck. But I will be there and cheering on TFC in what should be a big game for playoff positioning. And can't wait. It's going to be fun.
And the Fire not yet eliminated, from the
eliminated.
playoffs, so it will be probably a playoff game type of atmosphere.
Yeah, hopefully. Oh, and the last game at SeatGeek Stadium.
So do we know what color our SOP shirts are going to be?
It's going to be black. We've got black shirts with the SOP logo on it. So it's
a
they're
cool
not
green
done yet.
shield with the microphone.
Yep, they're not done yet. It's kind of a homemade deal with one of those fancy computer machines that
One of them
my
their
wife had to
fancy
have.
computer machines. Is that what you just said?
It is. So yeah, man, we're gonna give it a shot. So
Very
hopefully
cool.
my wife will get on it because she's been working on it for about a week and a half now and hasn't started yet.
And like I said, Greek night.
Hey,
It's
okay.
Greek night. They're going to be honoring some Greek soccer players, I believe, if they've done it in years past. I actually tried the first time they did a Greek night at Toyota Park SeatGeek Stadium, whatever, for a Fire game. They were taking nominations through some of the various Greek organizations as to who should be honored for their contributions to Greek soccer. So I typed a whole letter up as to why I should represent all the Greeks who played intramural soccer in college. They didn't go for it. They said, "You know what, Nick? Thanks for the letter. We're gonna like talk to people like Frank Klopas level, like Greeks who actually did something.
Oh man!
So that was my attempt at getting on the pitch, getting honored, and getting something from the Chicago Fire. But anyway, Mike, I'll teach you some choice Greek words that you can yell, and if people start looking at you, just say it's okay. I know Nick Pateris.
Okay, yeah. I think I'll pass.
All right. Well, anyway, if you wanted to get really involved in the fandom that night. With that kind of wraps up our headlines and our talk. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors, and then we're going to jump back in with everything going on around the MLS from a game's perspective and what playoff positioning holds. So stay tuned.
All right, so let's jump right into the MLS roundup. Lots of games to talk about. The playoff push is here. Nick, it is time. These teams are getting eliminated. Teams are locking up playoff berths. Teams are locking up conferences. They're going. This is the fun time of the year. You know, you get all year long. You get the previews and the first few weeks of the season. Everybody's excited. And you kind of go through the summer of, you know, the long summer in MLS. And now we are at the games where every game matters. It's extremely important. 3 points on the line. It's huge. We're here now.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like baseball when after playing 160 games, you're like, these last 2, we got to win. I'm like, where were you the other 8 months of your season? So I kind of feel a little bit of that with the MLS, this playoff push. But at the same time, I understand that teams now are a lot different than they were back in March, both in the makeup of the players, both in just the injuries, the form, and all the other things that get put into a soccer season. So maybe I'll go a little less hard on a team like Dallas when I'm like, now you want to play better? Oh wait, by the way, they just lost a big one in the Fire, so we'll get there in a second. But that you know right. What I mean, right? Those are the teams that I'm like, where were you a month ago when you were playing Cincinnati and Vancouver and Montreal? You didn't want to win those games? Anyway, that's just a down pessimistic counterpoint to everything we're going to talk about going forward here. So
fun sucker. Nick
anyway,
is a fun sucker.
Yeah, I'm the lawyer in the room, so I guess it kind of goes hand in hand. Anyway, Mike, why don't you get us going on the first game for the week?
So, first game of the week, New York City FC hosting my Toronto FC. A great matchup. This was a great game between two of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. New York City sitting in first, TFC sitting in fourth I believe they were in fourth when they went into this game. Great matchup, and it really played out to be a good matchup. Unfortunately, the refereeing kind of stole the show in this game.
It's kind of the theme for the week,
It is kind of the theme for the week. It is the theme of MLS, so we've touched on it many times in this podcast. If you are an MLS fan, you understand the doldrums of living with pro referees in this league. It has to get better, but overall a great game. TFC jumps up. It was New York City jumps out to the 1-0 lead right off the 5 minutes in. Matrita with a beautiful free kick. The first thing I said when I saw them line up was, with it being as close to the box as it was, I was like, Westberg just needs to hug that far post, because he can't get it up and down. When it's right on the line of the 18, there are like maybe 1 or 2 guys in the world that can go over the wall in that type of situation. Matrita's not one of them. And what do you know? He blasts it right to the far post, and Westberg standing behind the wall like an idiot, and it goes right in. Beautiful free kick by Matrita, but should have been played better by Westberg.
Greg Vanny, hire Mike Guglielmi to be your set piece specialist coach. Let's get it done. Let's get it done.
And then signed Sebastian Javinko back for free kicks. Just saying.
We'll see if that Saudi Arabian club wants to let him go. I'm sure he's selling a few jerseys for them.
I think so. But then in the 40th minute, Alejandro Pozuelo gets a penalty kick and buries it. 1-1 game. And then in the second half, it was all TFC. I mean, it was TFC had good possession. They had tons of chances. Pozuelo missed probably 3 goals in the second half that were
Ugh.
easy, wide open shots he should have put in. He skied one, he put one wide. Like, it was just, he should have been able to finish it. And then another penalty for Toronto, and he gets it saved by Sean Johnson.
The trend continues of TFC missing
penalty kicks. Exactly. So then at the end of the game was some controversy because right towards the end, going a 50-50 ball, and the guy grabs Mavinga, New York City player, grabs Mavinga's shirt and pulls him back. Mavinga throws his arm out, smashes the guy in the face. I think it was Castellanos. And he starts
one of those
bleeding.
Accidentally on purpose type of
Absolutely.
plays?
Absolutely. He's like, I feel the jersey tug. I'm smacking the dude. And he slaps him, bleeding everywhere from the face.
Yikes.
And you're thinking, okay, VAR is going to come into play here, and they're going to give a penalty kick to New York. Because what else? New York, the week before that, the game before that, they got a penalty kick in stoppage time to win the game. Why wouldn't it happen again, right? And so the refs took a look at it, and they decided that there was a foul on Castellanos against Mavinga before the hand hit the face, so they let it go.
Wow, that is a very narrow kind of reading of it. Like, well, we can't call the retaliation foul,
right? Because
we have to call the initial foul. But did Mavinga even get a card for that action?
I don't believe so.
I gotta imagine Disco's gonna do something. I closed out the stats here, but I gotta imagine, regardless of the referees, if you're gonna make contact with someone's face, yeah, Mavinga gets in the 96th minute for unsporting behavior. He did get a yellow.
So if he got a yellow, it should have been a red because he hit the guy in the face. So, I mean, I would think, Disco probably would have something to say.
Oh, well, it's because it was accidental, I suppose.
Well, no, it doesn't matter. If you're going to give a yellow card, and it's either nothing because what I got from the ruling of VAR was that there was a foul prior to that action. Therefore,
so that's
no penalty
when the ball is dead.
So the ball was the ref blew the whistle. The play was over as soon as that foul occurred. And then he swung back and hit him. So, if to me, you can either give nothing or it's a red and a penalty. But nothing, you can't change it now.
Sure, but I guess as a fan, like, that's kind of what you want, right? This was kind of the best outcome for the game. You're not making a call that blatantly affects the game. You're not punishing Mavinga and TFC by benching him for their next game when they're in the middle of this playoff push. And the players kind of had it out a little bit on the field there. Jersey tug, smack to the face. It's kind of a good physical play. So it's kind of the best outcome if you're watching the game as a fan versus maybe it wasn't the specific rules outcome. That's my 2 cents, Mike, from a neutral perspective.
Yeah, I mean, overall, a good game, a 1-1 result. Good result for TFC's. Beaten in, I believe, 6 going into their game on the weekend, which we'll touch on as well. New York City still stays up number 1 in the East. Good result for both sides.
Is Greg Vanney off the hot seat, or is he's still kind of toasty there?
I think he's probably a little off the hot seat. I think he might still be on it, depending on how these last few games go.
Got one cheek off the hot seat?
Yeah, one cheek off. Cheek off. Yeah, he's still a little warm. He can feel it, but, they're unbeaten in 6, now 7 over the weekend. We'll give you a little spoiler alert, but I'm sure you already know the results of the game if you're listening to the podcast here on Tuesday morning. Or Wednesday morning, whenever this gets posted. So, anyways, enough from that game. Let's move on to the Houston Dynamo hosting Minnesota United FC. Houston's been kind of struggling lately. Minnesota's been playing well. And Houston wins 2-0.
Because that's what the MLS does, right, Mike? Just when Minnesota is coming off of a great U.S. Open Cup run, they're going to solidify themselves as maybe a top 4 team in the Western Conference, possibly get some good mojo, make a run to the MLS Cup Finals. Then they lose to a Houston team who is, well below the playoff line, all but eliminated from playoff contention. A Houston team who has been talking about flipping rosters, and then they got a new coach, and even the new coach can't give them that little extra bump. Minnesota kind of falls flat on their face here. They do not have. Obviously, they don't score the goals, but from a statistical standpoint, 5 shots on target, that's not going to get the job done. 46% possession, not going to get the job done against a Houston team who likes to counterattack and play fast up the wings. So Minnesota definitely had a little something lacking. I don't know if they're just tired, Mike. I don't know what the situation is here, but they came out with a solid lineup. You know,
Yeah.
they had their starters. They were playing to win and solidify a first round home game, and just came up short.
No, I mean MLS is going to MLS, and that was really the theme of this week. Lots of games that you're kind of scratching your head about, and we will get to those later.
Yeah, like next,
Exactly.
Colorado Rapids hosting the LA Galaxy and beating them 2-1.
Yeah, Rapids with the new coach bump with Fraser. They're now this gives them the second win in 2 games. They beat Red Bulls at Red Bull Arena. Now they beat LA Galaxy, albeit at home. You know, and LA was on the road, but
they didn't
dominated
beat them.
the game.
They controlled the game.
They did.
And as far as the new coach bump goes, I think since the Rapids have fired Anthony Hudson, they've had something around like 1.6 points per game or 1.8 points per game. And I think if you narrow that down to just when they've had their new coach, it's even higher.
Well,
like,
right.
It's kind of ridiculous. And Shinashiki, haircut and fashion sense aside, like the guy's playing out of his mind for rookie. He's probably going to be the rookie of the year, whether you agree with that or not, just because he is putting in such outstanding performances late in the season that's really turning around a Rapids team. So you've got a brand new coach who's instilling a new culture, new style of play. You've got a rookie of the year candidate. You've got Tim Howard, who is retiring after a historic career, or is it an historic career? I can never figure out the grammar on that one. There's a little buzz around the Rapids here, which is kind of cool to see.
It is. They're definitely playing well right now. LA Galaxy was sliding going into this game. They continue to slide all the way out of a playoff position. And we will talk about them on the weekend game as well, where they kind of took that one and shoved it because they were done with that mentality going on. But look, Colorado's doing well. They're playing well. Guys are playing for jobs right now. New coach comes in. Yeah, you get the new coach bump, but you also have a bunch of guys who know that their future is not solidified. And they could be out of a job with the Rapids, and probably nobody else is going to give them much of a chance if they get knocked off of a team that doesn't make the playoffs. So,
right. If you're affiliated with Anthony Hudson and still underperforming, odds are you might get looks, at some lower divisions, or maybe some international team might look at you, but probably not so much in the MLS. At least that's what I hope. I don't know what the talent pool is. I look at NFL coaches and college football coaches who are just utter failures both in coaching a team and in just being people in general, like NCAA violations, scandals, but then like a year later they're coaching another major program. So to me that just shows there is a huge lack of coaching talent in football in this country, American football.
Right.
I don't know if the same applies for MLS Soccer. Now maybe because of the way they hand out a coaching license, not A as opposed to B, but like their tier A, the top tier, the requirement that you need to be an MLS coach. I think you can only get those once or twice a year, the way they offer the classes.
Okay.
So you never know. If you get your level A coaching license, you're an elite company, maybe that's enough to get you a job somewhere else. I don't know. But anyway, we can move on to the next game here. You've got RSL hosting San Jose. A couple of streaking teams looking to really solidify themselves in the playoffs. RSL comes out ahead, 1-0. Kind of a surprise to me. I really didn't think that San Jose would be held scoreless, playing RSL, a team not known for its defense. But yet, that's what happens despite San Jose controlling 56% of the possession. They're just unable to get those shots off, Mike. What are your takeaways from a game like this?
Well, my takeaways from this one is this game was at Rio Tinto Stadium. It's a home game for RSL in a Western Conference playoff picture that's extremely tight. They're both vying in the playoffs for good positioning. The game is at RSL. It's a midweek game. So that's pretty much all I can take from that is that the home team won.
Let's focus to RSL for a second here, Mike. At the end of this week, as the points currently sit, they are 4th place in the Western Conference with 46 points. They're 1 point up on the 5th place Galaxy and 2 points behind the 3rd place the Loons, Minnesota United. I'm kind of shocked that RSL is so high up in the table at this point in the season. we've seen their points go up and down. We've seen their goal differential go up and down. We've seen their play go up and down. Mike Petke, their coach, was recently fired. Beckerman and Raimondo, kind of their old guard, are just that old. Beckerman's taking a professional foul like every game. He's getting a yellow card just about every game because he can't keep up with some of the younger midfielders or some of the play. By the way, if you fans and listeners at home don't know, I am not a Kyle Beckerman fan whatsoever.
No.
Before or after the dreadlocks, not a fan of him. But yet, here's RSL. A team that barely squeaked into the playoffs last year and got the first round upset against LAFC. And then this year now they are somehow ahead of the Galaxy, the Quakes, the Timbers, Dallas, Sporting Kansas City in the playoff picture. Do you want to play this team in the playoffs? Are they where they should be? Are they going to drop out come the last couple games of the season? Like, what's your take on RSL this year, Mike?
My take on RSL is they're playing above their head. I don't think they have quite the talent level to be as high as they are in the playoff picture. So don't get mad at me, RSL fans. But that's just my personal opinion. It really comes down to their form. I mean, their home form is much better than their road form. And if you're in a playoff position like you are now, you are getting one home game in that fourth spot against Zlatan Ibrahimovic and LA Galaxy. Which, if I had to pick right now between LA and RSL, even traveling to Rio Tinto Stadium, I'd go with the Galaxy.
I agree.
So, I don't see them being a huge MLS Cup contender, but they're playing well, and I'm happy for them because they do have some great fans. It is a great atmosphere up there at Rio Tinto, a tough place to play. So that's my take on RSL.
So as we move along the slate of the games this weekend, next up on Saturday the 14th, NYCFC hosting the aforementioned San Jose Quakes and sending the Quakes to a second consecutive loss, this time 2-1 up in New York City. Mike, we know how good NYCFC has been. Eber's come in. It's been spreading around the scoring. Mitrita, Maxi Morales. Like, we know how good NYCFC has been. We know that San Jose is playing kind of above their level as well. Almeida's man-marking system, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the opponent. Depends on how the Quakes are playing that day. One thing I want to kind of get away from the X's and O's of this game. There was another conversation going around on social media regarding NYCFC Stadium. And this time the New York City fan rebuttal to your stadium is terrible and your field isn't regulation is, well, both teams have to play on it, so you're just bitter that your team happened to lose that week. Both teams have to play on this terrible field. So as the lawyer in me, first I want to go, thank you for admitting the point that you have a terrible pitch. But secondly, that still doesn't show why it's an equal footing when you have one team who gets to do daily walkthroughs and train there and who gets to play half of their games there
a season or more. Right.
And who, by the way, if you look at the way their roster is constructed, they have built a team who has that style of play to be a tight-knit possession type of team
right.
rather than long ball bunk counter because they are on a smaller pitch for half of their games. So that's my rebuttal to all you NYCFC fans who say, but we play on the same field, don't be bitter about it. I'm like, no. And besides, if you're coming from the Western Conference and you got to fly halfway across the country to go play in that little pitch, I think that also adds a little bit of home field advantage to NYCFC.
And this game start. What time did this game start at?
I don't know, but it was probably a ridiculous time.
I'm pretty sure it was 11:30 a.m. Central Time, which is 12:30 Eastern, which puts San Jose's time zone at 9:30 in the morning. So you have a team who played midweek in Salt Lake, which is Mountain Time, but still, they're used to West Coast time. They fly across the country after traveling midweek anyways to New York and play a game at 9:30 their time. I thought about it because I'm like, wow, these fans, I mean, how weird would it be to watch your team play at 9:30 in the friggin' morning?
Right?
Like, I get it. Some people who watch English soccer and they're watching games at 8 a.m. I get that. But, in the United States, your team is here. You're used to watching them at 7 o'clock at night, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe sometimes 2, 1, maybe. But 9:30 in the friggin' morning? What? So Okay, that plays into it as well. But back to the stadium talk. Look, you're right. The team is built for that stadium because they're playing 17 games a year in the regular season there. Okay, yes, they are playing on the same exact pitch for 90 minutes.
Baseball equivalent, you got a small field, you get home run hitters. You don't get small ball players.
Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, they are playing on the same pitch for 90 minutes, but that team practices there. They practice on a smaller pitch. TFC was speaking about it before they went there midweek, and they said they actually redrew the field on their training grounds in Toronto the week before to practice on that smaller field, right? Okay, so, they practice for 3 days with a smaller field. Look, it's a joke. We've talked about it before. We'll talk about it again. Until this team gets a real stadium or plays on a real field, it's a joke. It's an absolute shame that a team... The only reason why this is allowed is because it's Manchester City. Is the ownership group. It's the only reason. I guarantee you if this was not Manchester City, they wouldn't... MLS would be barking down their backs, get the hell out of that stadium and build yourself a stadium somewhere within New York City. Even if it's slightly out in the burbs. Like, get something done. You can't play there anymore. It's an eyesore. It's disgusting. I mean, it's empty. The stadium's empty. They've got good fans. They got good supporters. But they're 60 yards off in the distance in the center field bleachers, okay?
And the stadium discussion we can have throughout the league because you've got NYCFC in a baseball stadium. You've got now Chicago moving to a football stadium. And anyone who's watched a Bears game knows how terrible the turf is at Soldier Field. But then on the flip side of it, you've got FC Cincinnati who came into the league playing at a university, even though it is a soccer stadium. No, it's multi-purpose. It's football stadium. But they're building their own. Okay, fine. Right. You want to get them in the league. But then you've got Seattle, who plays where the Seahawks play. Right. You've got Atlanta, who plays in a football dome. Stadium, So... you want soccer-specific stadiums.
There's a big difference between a football stadium
draw the line?
And a baseball stadium. Nick, a baseball, what do they call the field in a baseball game? It's a baseball.
I believe it's shaped like a diamond.
It's a diamond. A football field is played in a rectangle, similar to a soccer field, correct?
Exactly. Hang on, let me call my kindergarten daughter and see if she can tell me her shapes.
Exactly. So there's the problem. They shouldn't be playing in a baseball field. We can talk about this for another 20 minutes. Let's move on to the big news of the week, the Chicago Fire and their fire sale. And wow, did they ever get a new ownership bump?
Never heard of that one before, but it worked.
Hey, it sure did work. This team came out all guns blazing. 4-0 victory over FC Dallas. I don't know if Dallas just decided we don't want to play right now, or if... this was the Fire really getting that excited. I mean, this locker room was so far lost with that management and that ownership group that they're like, oh my God, hallelujah. We have a new ownership group. We are going to kick some ass today. I don't know what it was. The fans were pumped up. They were excited with that news. But there you go. Chicago,
Dallas is a team. They're just outside the playoff picture right now. They're in 8th place. Like they should have taken. I would have expected Dallas to play a lot better. Now I think some of the early goals for Chicago were offset pieces and kind of little fluke. Like the first one was a fluke. It was a terrible back pass from the defender to the Dallas goalkeeper. He played the ball really shallow. Didn't put much on it. Just kind of did it lazily, routinely. The Dallas keeper didn't really come out to play the ball, but Sapong, to his credit, he hustled it, he tracked it down, tapped it around the keeper, and found the back of the net. So you had a few kind of goofy goals to start the game, but Dallas then just kind of took themselves out of it mentally. And as I said it in a tweet, these Fire players are playing for their jobs now. You've got a new ownership group. You got to believe that Pano is going to be gone, their head coach. So they're going to be playing for their jobs because they want whoever the new coach is to like them. And I was trying to find a tweet about it, one of our fans who we were talking about it with, but that's kind of my take on it right now. So we have harped on the Fire and Dallas long enough. Jumping into another Eastern Conference game, Atlanta United hosting Columbus, and
MLS going MLS.
Oh man. Is this enough for people to get over Giassi Zardes when his Columbus Crew beat reigning MLS Cup champions 3-1 in Atlanta? Definitely not. Nobody's gonna ever get off Giassi Zardes' back. But an impressive win for Columbus. This is a building win for them. They're not going to make the playoffs this year, but this is something they can look to in the future and say, hey, that was a good game. Let's do more of that. Caleb Porter's system is being implemented to some effect.
Yeah, good win for Columbus. Surprising, very, very surprising.
Yes. Next up, Mike, another one of your Canadian teams. I'll let you take this one.
Yeah, so another surprising matchup. You've got Montreal Impact hosting FC Cincinnati, expansion side, who's just struggling, already eliminated from the playoffs. Just got beat down by TFC 5-1 at Nippert Stadium, a home game for Cincinnati. And you're thinking, okay, well, Montreal, they're fighting for a playoff position right there in number 8, number 7 with New England. This is a game they're going to come out and they're going to smash Cincinnati just like TFC did. Wrong. Alan Cruz jumps on a ball literally within the first minute of the game. I think it was like 35 seconds in when he scored the goal. And that was all she wrote. 1-0 final. Cincinnati goes to Montreal, smacks them in the teeth, and takes the 3 points.
I have to believe it's because Montreal's starting left back, Daniel Lovitz, was a little tired from international duty. We all know how important Daniel Lovitz is to the Montreal Impact and the USMNT team, and because he was not on top of his game, if you can't pick up the sarcasm, it's because we don't think Daniel Lovitz is very good, and he should not be on the USMNT roster. Like,
I don't even think he played much of a part in this game, to be honest with you. But,
well, that's about his MO. Anyway,
much it.
Good for Cincy to get that early goal and just kind of ride out 90 minutes of no-goal soccer.
Yeah, getting the clean sheet. So then we move to another couple teams that are right there and fighting for that last playoff spot. You got Orlando City hosting New England Revolution. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to watch this game, but sounded like it was a great game. 3-3 this one ends, a 3-3 draw, back and forth soccer. I mean, New England goes on the board quickly with an own goal. Nani comes through and scores to tie it up. New England kind of takes advantage and starts winning the next probably 30 minutes or so, scores a couple goals, and then it's comeback soccer from Orlando City, just trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. And this one ends with a 3-3 draw.
Surprise, surprise, Dom Dwyer gets a goal early in the second half in the 47th minute. Haven't seen his name on the score sheet in a while, or at least in a meaningful game.
Right.
But hey, Nani, for a guy coming over who has played at the level he has, to come to the MLS, he understands a playoff push. He had 2 goals and an assist tonight. He's at least doing his part, finally getting Dom Dwyer involved. So very encouraging for Orlando City fans, who, as it stands right now, though, are still 4 points out of the playoffs. So we'll see if they can make a push over the last couple games. It's going to come down to decision day for them. Another big matchup, East versus West, Philly versus LAFC, potential MLS Cup matchup.
Could be.
Maybe. And ends in a 1-1 draw. Probably a very fair result, the way the game was played.
Yeah.
And, not many takeaways. LAFC and Philly both played a good game. Both countered each other very well. I think LAFC is happy to come away with a point. Same with Philly, just kind of keeping pace with New York a little bit.
Yeah. Two straight draws.
Neither team wanted to lose.
Right.
And I think that's how it ended up.
Yep.
A lot of good play from Kasper Shabilko for the Union. He's kind of been an unsung hero for them, despite being a very big-name signing. But watch that dude come playoff time. He's going to step it up. And you never know, when Ilsinho comes off the bench, what could happen for the Duke Nation? All right, that was a little bit of WWE announcer in there, but
all right,
let's move on.
Vancouver Whitecaps hosting Houston Dynamo, 2 teams in the West that are pretty much out of it. Done and dusted. Not really an exciting game here, although Vancouver does take the 3 points and beats Houston at home in Vancouver in front of the Southsiders with a 2-1 victory. Something for them to hang their hats on for next season. I believe they are already eliminated from the playoffs now, Vancouver. So at least they got the 3 points at home. Send those fans home happy.
So the next day, another one of these kind of odd matchups I didn't expect to go this way. DC United goes to Portland and comes home with 3 points. A 1-0 victory over the Timbers, who are fighting for a playoff spot, whereas DC is just kind of trying to hold on to their seeding right now.
Right.
DC, not in the best recent form. Timbers, I don't know what happened in this game. They just couldn't find the offense. And you'd think a team with Valeri and Blanco, and especially Fernandez, the way he has come into this league and kind of played, would be able to create a couple of good opportunities. They're going to have to sort this out before playoffs begin, because right now Portland is in the 7th spot, only ahead of Dallas on tiebreaker, because they have one more win at this point. Dallas does have more goals, so if they end up even on wins, or I should say Dallas has a better goal differential. So Portland's got to score a few goals and win a few games here as we come down the stretch. To me, that's going to be a key thing to watch. A team who was in the MLS Cup final last season now might not even be in the playoffs.
Yeah, it is a very good possibility. Then we go down to Toronto, across to the East Coast. This game was fun. A good game to watch. TFC gets the win, continues on their roll. 3-2 victory over Colorado. And their former assistant coach, Robin Fraser, who's now the head coach of the Rapids. We talked about that new coach bump for the Rapids, and they were 2-0 coming into this one. Definitely in good form. TFC came out and just was on fire for the first 15 to 20 minutes of this game. They get on, get up 2-0, and then they fell asleep. Colorado comes back, ends up tying it up 2-2. Toronto continue to control the play, had lots of good chances, and they get the winner to now make their unbeaten run, unbeaten in 7, as they are sitting 4th in the playoff picture, ahead of a couple teams there, just ahead of DC and New York.
So did Frazier do his former team a solid here and give them the 3 points? No, of course not. That's tinfoil hat crazy stuff. Yeah. Absolutely. Next couple games, because we're right at our hour mark here. We don't want to keep y'all listening for too long. Minnesota defeats RSL 3-1 up at Allianz Field in the Twin Cities. This is kind of what I would expect.
Yeah,
I would expect this
exactly
Minnesota team
we were talking about
to beat RSL 3-1. I expect
RSL at home, really good. RSL on the road, not so good. There you go.
Minnesota at home,
very good.
Trying to rebound from a bad loss, absolutely. Next game, man, Red Bulls. This is like MetroStar type stuff here. When you're losing to Seattle 4-2, when you're really trying to make sure you still make the playoffs. Red Bulls, they've fallen down to the 6th spot. They're 1 point above number 7 New England and 4 points above number 8 and 9 Montreal and Chicago. It's
falling
apart. A little touch and go here for the Red Bulls.
It is
coming off a historic point season last year. May not make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's getting close. This is one of our followers and avid listeners, Stephen Phillips. He was liking and commenting, going crazy on the Red Bulls during this game. Kind of is kind of a broad picture of Red Bull Nation. It's not looking so good out there right now.
Right, and you should be as worried and upset and crazy as he is. And to kind of transition in the final game of the week, if I'm a Galaxy fan, I'd be doing the same thing. For all the signings you've done the last 2 years, for all the changeover you've had in management, coaching, and player personnel, for all the flair that Zlatan can do for you, and for all the play of legit and Alessandrini and other guys you're developing, last week, the Galaxy were on the outside looking in. They lost their first game of this week, but then something clicked. And they go into they host Sporting Kansas City and stomp on them 7-2. Despite SKC scoring the first goal.
Here's the quick wrap up for this game and the LA Galaxy's mentality. They suffer from the big name, the big ego mentality. This is a team who the talent that's there, if they had the right mentality every single game, they would be up there with LAFC. They would be up there towards the top of the Western Conference, not even worried about a playoff position. But they have that big ego of a Zlatan, of Jonathan Dos Santos, of some of these guys, and they play extremely, they play to their competition. Hey, I am Zlatan. I am the best ever. We must win. We will win because I am Zlatan and I'm playing. Well, it doesn't work that way. If you're not there 100%, you're not giving it 100%. Not saying just him not giving 100%, but the whole squad with that amount of talent, if they're not giving 100% and going after it, they're not going to win.
Yeah.
And it shows in this game, when they really want it, they can go get it. And that's a scary thing for the playoffs.
2 quick points, Mike, and then we'll wrap it up. I don't think... So there's very few games in MLS history where a team scores 7 goals. And if you remember, Sporting Kansas City dropped 7 on another team earlier this year. So Sporting Kansas City might be the only team to both score 7 goals and have 7 goals scored against them in MLS history. I haven't verified it. Wouldn't
Not
surprise
all
me.
in the same season.
At least in the same
Yeah.
season, I would say. And then you're talking about you got to have the right mentality. Well, it's been a while since we mentioned one of our favorite players, Quincy Amarikwa. Mental Strong League, MSL.
Mental Strength League.
Mental Strength League. You got to have the right mentality, and no one embodies that more than Quincy. So with that, I think we can wrap it up. So thank you, fans, for listening. Thank you, people on YouTube, for watching. You can find us on YouTube, Sons of a Pitch Soccer, on Facebook, at Sons of a Pitch Soccer, Twitter, at SOP Soccer. Thank you to our sponsors, Donovan Food Brokerage and Nice Premium Iceland Pure Spring Water, and especially thank you to the listeners. We appreciate your time and everything you do to support us. Look forward to hearing from you. Follow us on Twitter, comment and leave us reviews on iTunes. We'll work them into the show. See you next week.